Death Row's most shocking twist, Freddie Owens' last day. Today, we step into one of the most chilling and complicated stories ever to come out of South Carolina's death row. Freddy Eugene Owens' life began in chaos, marked by abuse, instability, and a childhood surrounded by violence. By 19, he was already standing on the edge of destruction. In 1997, a late-night stop at a Greenville gas station would change everything. Within hours of being convicted for that crime, Owens shocked the state again, this time inside a crowded jail cell. His path from there would span more than 2 decades of legal battles, religious transformation, and a final twist when his own accomplice claimed he had lied for years. On September 20th, 2024, South Carolina carried out its first execution in 13 years, and Owens faced the end with no grand final words, just a quiet goodbye. Stay with me, because this is a story you won't forget. Dear friends, Freddy Eugene Owens was born on March 18, 1978, in South Carolina, a beginning already marked by hardship. His mother was just 18 years old, barely out of her own childhood. From the start, his life was filled with instability. By age 5, the state had removed him from his home, citing abuse and neglect. Foster care was supposed to be a refuge, but instead, it became another place of uncertainty. Freddie bounced from one household to another before returning to his mother, only to be faced with a stepfather whose abuse deepened the wounds. Violence was a constant shadow. At 7 years old, Freddie witnessed his grandmother shoot a man. For a child, that moment etched a deep, dangerous lesson. Violence was a way to survive. By his teenage years, his mistrust of authority, bursts of anger, and inability to connect with others became impossible to ignore. He was eventually diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, a label that seemed to define him long before he could define himself. By 19, Freddie was spiraling. He was no longer just a troubled young man. He was someone carrying a lifetime of pain with nothing but rage as a compass. And then came November 1st, 1997, a night that would alter countless lives forever. It was cold in Greenville, South Carolina, the kind of night where the air seems to settle heavy on your skin. Owens and 3 others, Lester Young, Nicky Vance, and Stephen Golden, set out with a plan to rob. They split into pairs, with Owens and Golden heading toward a local gas station convenience store. The target inside was a woman named Irene Graves, a 41-year-old single mother working a late shift to provide for her 3 children. According to later testimony, Owens wore a ski mask and carried a gun. Golden wore a stocking mask. They moved quickly, demanding Irene open the store's safe. But something went wrong. Maybe she didn't know the combination. Maybe she froze from fear. What's certain is that she couldn't open it. In that moment, Golden later claimed, Owens made his choice. He raised the gun and fired a single shot to her head. Irene died instantly. They fled with just $137.29. That was all Irene's life was worth to them that night. Later, Owens allegedly told others exactly what he had done, without hesitation or remorse. But Owens himself always denied pulling the trigger. On November 11, 1997, police arrested Owens. CCTV footage placed 2 masked men in the store. Multiple witnesses, including Owens' own mother and girlfriend, said he confessed. And Golden, facing his own charges, testified that Owens had been the shooter. In exchange, Golden received a plea deal and avoided the death penalty. Owens refused the deal and went to trial. February 15, 1999, the jury found him guilty of murder, armed robbery, and related charges. The sentencing hearing was set for 2 days later, but Owens wouldn't wait for that. Just hours after being convicted, inside a cramped county jail cell shared with 10 other inmates, Owens' rage erupted again. His cellmate, 28-year-old Christopher Lee, was serving just 90 days for a traffic violation. Owens claimed Lee mocked him, even bragging that a relative had served on the jury that convicted him. Whether true or not, it was enough to ignite a deadly attack. The assault was as brutal as it was relentless. Owens punched Lee, stabbed him in the throat and eye with a ballpoint pen, strangled him with a sheet, and then set about burning his eyes and hair with a lighter. He shoved a pen into Lee's nostril, pinching the other shut until he suffocated. The other inmates could only watch in shock. The next day, in open court, Owens confessed to the killing in full detail. There was no apology, no regret. He claimed he had nothing left to lose. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. That same day, he was sentenced to death. Owens would spend the next 25 years on South Carolina's death row. Those decades were marked by endless appeals, legal motions, and the slow grind of the justice system. But they were also the setting for a profound change in Owens himself. In 2015, he converted to Islam, adopting the name Khalil Divine Black Son Allah. He began studying African history, writing poetry, and learning Arabic. He spoke often about the ancient University of Timbuktu and the resilience of African civilizations. To those who knew him behind bars, it was as if the man who had once been ruled entirely by rage had turned inward, searching for meaning. Yet the shadow of his crimes never left. The families of both victims, one a mother taken from her children, the other a man who never should have died in jail, continued to carry their grief, and the state of South Carolina continued to pursue his execution. When the death warrant finally came in 2024, Owens faced a new challenge. Under state law, inmates could choose their method of execution: lethal injection, electric chair, or firing squad. But in his Islamic faith, to make that choice felt dangerously close to suicide, which is forbidden. So Owens refused to choose. Instead, he told his attorney to make the decision for him. In the final days, his legal team fought hard. Just 48 hours before the scheduled execution, co-defendant Stephen Golden signed a new sworn statement claiming he had lied during the original trial. He now insisted Owens wasn't at the gas station that night, though he refused to name the real killer out of fear. The South Carolina Supreme Court rejected the motion, pointing to Owens' multiple past confessions and calling Golden's new story not credible. On September 20th, 2024, Owens' final hours began in the Deathwatch cell at Broad River Correctional Institution. He declined family visits, choosing instead to spend his time in prayer with a Muslim spiritual advisor. For his last meal, Owens requested 2 cheeseburgers, French fries, a well-done ribeye steak, 6 chicken wings, 2 strawberry sodas, and a slice of apple pie. He ate alone, without comment. At 6:36 p.m., Owens was escorted into the execution chamber. He was strapped to the gurney, and as the witnesses filed in, among them the families of Irene Graves and Christopher Lee, he turned to his attorney and simply said, "Bye." She replied softly, and that was the last exchange of his life. A single dose of pentobarbital was administered. Owens closed his eyes, took several deep breaths, and then his breathing slowed. Witnesses noted slight facial twitches before all movement stopped. At 6:54 p.m., a medical professional entered to check for vital signs. 1 minute later, at 6:55 p.m., Freddy Eugene Owens was pronounced dead. It was South Carolina's first execution in 13 years. In that small, fluorescent-lit room, time seemed to stand still. The man once known for sudden, explosive violence had met his end in silence. For some, it was justice long overdue. For others, it was a moment that raised more questions than it answered, about redemption, truth, and the weight of final judgment. In the quiet of that South Carolina execution chamber, the decades-long journey of Freddy Eugene Owens came to an end. From a childhood scarred by violence, to the gas station crime that shocked a city, to the prison killing that sealed his fate, his story is one of destruction, both of others and himself. For the families of Irene Graves and Christopher Lee, the execution may have brought some sense of closure, though nothing can restore what was taken. For those who followed his years on death row, it was a reminder that even in the face of spiritual change, the past cannot be erased. Owens left this world without a grand final statement, just a simple goodbye to the only person by his side in those last moments. In the end, the questions remain about justice, redemption, and the unshakable weight of choices made long ago.